Nazis didn't lose the war. I think Germany did. And this whole thing with technology and all that stuff. What's your thoughts on just the whole disclosure and all that?
I have so many thoughts about disclosure. My first thought about disclosure is I basically entertain all the theories, don't write any of them off, and I just kind of like let them all float in my thought process as I learn. And so like the high jump stuff is a great example. The theories about Nazis down in Antarctica with potential UFO technology, which is like if you've never heard of that before, that sounds completely ridiculous. That sounds like, what are you talking about? But like, look into the evidence. It's actually pretty interesting. And if we don't have any idea if it's true or not, but like I'm not about to write it off because we do have like so much evidence that there is something going on. And I did an interview lately with Ashton Forbes, who's the one blowing up the MH370 flight thing on Twitter. Yes. And he's super interesting to talk to. And we got really into sort of like the most concrete version of the evidence. But the way I see it is that it's highly likely that there is at least one species that is not humans as we think of them today. They might be from the future or the past, or they might be from other dimensions, or they might be from outer space. And we don't necessarily know which or what of that it is. And they're probably underwater because there's a shitload of underwater sightings and there's a shitload of documents that talk about underwater stuff. They could very well be underground and in Antarctica too. And the government certainly knows about it and might be colluding with them in some form, working for them in some form. And then the speculation that gets really interesting is once you start to connect that to things like the pedophile and sex trafficking networks, the blackmail networks, like those people are powerful enough that they might know some of this. They might be involved in it in some way. Like I can't help but start to connect things like adrenochrome theories to alien theories. And I don't know if any of it's true, but it's like, damn, that would be really dark if it was.
That would be dark.
That'd be super dark, but it would make the way that my brain tends to work is I think through a theory, and if it's like really crazy, then you need a way that if you were in the shoes of the person that's in that conspiracy doing the thing, you need a way for their brain to explain the world that would make them justify their actions to themselves. And so if I'm like one of these like elite pedophiles that's like sacrificing children and stuff, what could convince you that that was the right way to live your life? And like, yeah, maybe just being such a shitty person. But if you had the inside scoop on aliens and you had been in the room with an extraterrestrial and that extraterrestrial had told you things about the universe or had shown you like something about, and you know, like if it had drained a child right in front of you or something, or threatened to kill the whole world if you didn't bring it a child, those sorts of things would be like, I could imagine those starting to explain how evil some of these people are, or Lord knows what. Like
Well, it gets into like, aliens versus demons and what is that? And are they talking to aliens? Are they just talking to demons versus angels? Yeah. I lean more towards that than the other way, but I'm open-minded to all of it.
I mean, in a way, it almost seems like aliens were the psyop all along, right? And what Elon is saying about he's never had to like reposition a satellite around a UFO or whatever, I mean, that fits perfectly with that psyop of like, look, the most knowledgeable guy says there's no aliens in outer space. It's like, yeah, because we're not talking about outer space, bro. We're talking about like right here in the ocean, on the ground, underground, in the books that have been around for thousands of years. Everyone talks about them. It's like, I think them being from here and a part of this place is, and a part of like spiritual in some form, extra dimensional in some form.
Dude, if you think about that one video that they have, the Air Force released. Now, you can say what you will about those videos, but you do see that it is clearly designed to go into the water. Like it lost no speed dipping into the water and
then traveling at unbelievable speeds underwater, which is like,
which should
even
be
a
possible.
bullet can't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
you go like 5 feet underwater and somebody could spray you with bullets and it wouldn't. The water's so dense that the bullets
I talked to Ashton Forbes a lot about that technology, about like warp drive technology, and his theory, and it tracks a lot. And we read some papers that are basically like regular physics trying to explain this stuff, talking about how if there's a fifth dimension that would be ether, they're talking about making like little warp bubbles where you open up, essentially it's like what we're calling dark energy and dark matter right now, because we don't know what the fuck it is like opening up a little warp bubble where you're actually outside of our spatial dimensions.
Like
so you have Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like Star Trek. Star Trek was right all
Dude,
along.
that is crazy.
Think about all the
Yeah.
shit Star Trek's gotten right, by the way. It's just like a litany of things. I mean, they had those little cell phones that they carried around, you know. In
The only thing
60s.
they-
And then the physics of that is actually that when you do that, we already understand that if those physics are real, then radar technology interferes with that bubble. And
really?
there's a lot of disclosure people that talk about radar and scalar technology shooting crafts down and stuff like that.
Huh. Fascinating.
And nuclear blasts crashing them.
Oh, that would explain why
Which makes
they
a ton of
have
sense.
such an interest in the nuke. I mean, you see these craft around. They're trying to. Huh. That's
Exactly.
fascinating. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Can I ask you really quickly? Do you think the people that have talked about them being underwater, do they think those are native beings or that they're here from abroad?
I mean, it's anyone's guess at this point.
Okay.
The only people that would know is people that are read in a big way.
Okay.
But I will say that if anyone's read the Kona Blue documents that Tucker recently referenced on the Joe Rogan Experience, those documents are really interesting. And they talk about hot spots of like elevated alien activity that they want to study further. And one of them is the Bigelow Ranch, the Skinwalker Ranch. They tried to redact it in a part of it, but then later on you can read into it and realize that they're definitely saying that Skinwalker Ranch is real and it is a serious hotspot of activity they wanted to look into. And then there's a lot of indication that the Bermuda Triangle is another active hotspot that they want to observe more of. And they have a special military base out there for like underwater studies. I forget what it's called.
Well, yeah, they lost a ship there, right? And what was it,
lots of them.
50s or 60s, that famous
So there's some pretty cool
destroyer
speculation about like maybe an underwater alien base, alien, like an underwater base of some sort in the Bermuda Triangle, or perhaps maybe like an underwater pyramid or something.
Yeah. Or
I've
like
been recently learning about
right?
the Black Pyramid in Egypt or in Alaska. Connecting the ancient cultures conspiracies to the extraterrestrial conspiracies is really interesting.
That is interesting, dude. That's very
And I mean, it
interesting.
kind of like blows the lid off. So for me, the biggest question growing up was always like, why do they care so much if we have alternate Egypt theories? Like, why does that matter? Right?
Yeah, they're defensive about that for sure.
Why do you think they care?
Because if you crack open the Egypt theories, you crack open the extraterrestrial theories because they're the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
Because like if all the technologies that we're looking at in like these ancient megalithic structures and the beings that made them pre whatever Younger Dryas event happened, like those are all of the same storylines that lead forwards into whatever the extraterrestrial beings that we have today are, and probably a lot of the same energy structures. Like it makes a lot of sense that if those two things are connected, then keeping the lid on the ancient Egypt story would be essential to keeping the lid on the disclosure story today.
And it also gets into like the narrative of like this group of people controlling everything, and reality is that story isn't true, and that actually, you know, whether you believe in Tartaria or not, that there's just like our humanity has been here a lot longer, and there's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more magical going on, free energy and all that stuff. And like, why are we paying $5 a gallon for gas when people make engines that run on water? Why are they doing run on air, run on this, run on that? That is